Hey guys, it's TheFrXion here with Tank12. However you call me, I don't really care. And welcome back to World of Tanks. Today, just a little update video. Nothing about World of Tanks Classic. Today we're going to be talking about the changes that they're going to be making to the Type 4 Heavy, the Type 5 Heavy, and the FV4005. Now, we all do know that premium shells in the upcoming months will probably be overworked. Premium shells, their main concern is that they want to reduce the damage output of premium shells by 25%. Now, that would obviously make every overly powerful, heavily armored vehicle in the game, and every player who likes to play heavy tanks and the armored tank destroyers and armored medium tanks jump up and glee because it will probably reduce the usage of premium shells by a bit. Not completely, but probably by a bit. Especially on vehicles that already have pretty damn good penetration. But still, I'm not seeing a concrete, or I don't see any evidence that they're going to be able to completely get the premium shell problem under control, because they don't even call them premium shells, and they're very, very much afraid of the term premium shell because it does kind of hold close to pay to win, and that's the last thing Wargaming want to have in their game, which is called free to play. So yeah, just a little side note right there. But the solution that they're trying to fix the problem with right now is they want to reduce the damage output. Yes, but super heavy tanks, on the other hand, still have the one big issue of not having any real weak spots. And that has been an issue over the last couple of years for every new nation that kind of made it into the game, especially if it were heavy tanks. The Japanese started it all with their heavy tanks having just basically zero weak spots at the front, and thus making people shoot premium shells at them. I myself included, as soon as I see a Type 4 Heavy or a Type 5 Heavy frontally coming towards me, I will change my fire rate, I will change my ammo type to premium shells, because I know I won't be able to penetrate the guy with standard rounds. Even with premium shells, it's going to be difficult at different angles. So the problem is not that premium shells are being extremely hard, or overtly used by everyone. It is an issue that a lot of people are using premium shells just because they have the means to use them, yes. But the problem is that we have vehicles with no relevant weak spots anymore. There are so many tanks that can go hull down in a position where you cannot hurt them except if you fire high explosive shells at them, or if artillery can deal with them, unless you can actually get close to them and surround them. There are a lot of vehicles with bad lower hulls, or okay, decent lower hulls, but much stronger upper hulls and stronger turret armor, that it's not worth firing standard shells at these vehicles. And that is something Wargaming just needs to get their heads around, because this is so important. We need weak spots to return on vehicles that they're adding into the game. This is one of the reasons why the E100 was just such a good example. It had a very, very bad lower plate. At tier 10 level, everyone was able to go through the lower plate of the E100, but at tier 9 and tier 8, it changed drastically, and that's exactly where people will and should be using gold to go through the tank. If at tier 8 and tier 9 you're going to be facing a tier 10, I don't think it is bad to be able to use premium shells to your advantage to go through them reliably, or even have a chance to penetrate them. The problem I see is much more with the people at tier 10 using premium shells just to bash each other in the face, because, well, they don't want to look for the weak spots, or either the tank has no weak spot, or they want to stay competitive. And I understand the fact that if you want to stay competitive, you have to make some sacrifices. In that case, you have to use more premium ammo to stay competitive and have your statistics in that level. But I can understand why it is an issue and it needs to be fixed. But I think that the route wargaming are currently going down, that it is not the correct way of dealing with this issue. I think that they have to start reintroducing weak spots on the vehicles, even overwork the tanks that are already in the game. And that's exactly what they're doing. But this time around, with the Type 4 Heavy and the Type 5 Heavy, they're not going to be reducing the armor statistics or characteristics. They will be reworking the guns. And this is a really interesting change. Because the Type 4 Heavy and the Type 5 Heavy, if you haven't noticed yet, are the worst two vehicles that I can think of immediately in the game. I think the Japanese heavy tank line is the worst line Wargaming have ever introduced into the game. It takes zero skill to play them. It only takes a lot of credits and actually a bit of patience because you're not the fastest. But as soon as they introduced the gun change to the Type 4 and the Type 5 Heavy, both of these vehicles were basically done for me. I had absolutely no respect for that thing and anyone who was playing them because they are basically horrible vehicles that can just shoot at anything without taking any damage because they have great armor, they have a gun that does high explosive damage, and a gun that does 1,400 damage with its high explosive shells. Now this is going to be changing very soon. Japanese heavy tanks have and will have their top guns reworked, the 14 centimeter and the 15 centimeter. Now the 15 centimeter is the derp gun and the 14 centimeter is the one gun that does fire AP shells, and I think ABCR as premium. Now what they're going to be doing is they're going to increase the penetration for the standard shell on the 14 centimeter gun and increase the standard increase the shell penetration of the ABCR shell up to 290 millimeters. Now the high explosive gun, its basic high explosive shell, which nobody uses because there's a premium one, will reduce in damage from 1,100 to 900 damage. And the premium shell, look at this, they're calling it the special round. This is so typical wargaming. The premium shell is now going to be turned into a hash shell, which will only do 750 damage maximum instead of the 1,400 it does right now. Its pen will be increased to 192, thus it is going to be in the same kind of category as the FV4005. I think the pen on the premium shells is a little bit better on the FV4005, I think quite substantially by 40 millimeters, but still we're going to see a drop-off in damage by almost half. That's almost 50% damage drop-off, and this is exactly what we need to see. To keep the Type 4 and Type 5 Heavy interesting for people, what they're going to be doing is they're going to increase the speed by a little bit. I think they said about 3 kilometers top speed, and the whole traverse rate is going to be increased by 3 degrees. And this is actually a change I can live with. This is very important to me that the 15 centimeter gun gets completely knocked off in damage. You can see that the penetration is going to be increased by 192 millimeters. That still is going to give you the opportunity to be able to penetrate vehicles that are not the best armored vehicles. For example, medium tanks, for example, light tanks, heavy tanks on their rear or on their side armor. And 192 millimeters is quite a lot of penetration. And you can still do 750 damage plus 10%. That's about 850 or 650 damage that you'll be able to do if you do penetrate the shell. But that is a change that was really, really needed. It might be even too much penetration for my taste, but 750, this is the first and the right step into the right direction, because it needs to lose the damage. 1,400 damage, when they just clunked you in the face and drove back, they were just able to basically retreat into a position or just, use their armor to protect themselves from you, and you were just bouncing off them while they were just hitting you with high explosive shells in your face. So what you can see right here is the engine power is going to be increased on the Type 5 Heavy. Here the rotation speed of the hull, also the movement speed 4 kilometers. It's going to be 25 kilometers now. And the gun characteristics on the 14 centimeter gun, the AP gun, is going to be changing a bit. So overall, the biggest problem, the high explosive shell on the 50 centimeter gun, is going to be nerfed, and it's going to have the same statistics as the Type 4, since both of these vehicles have the identical gun. But I think it is important that they nerf the damage. Now, this is the first step. I'm not sure how it's going to be working out with 192 millimeters of penetration, because you have two guns that you can choose from, and that the standard AP shell gun actually is going to be looking quite more interesting again, because it does have more pen and it has 600 millimeters of penetration, 600 HP worth of damage that it can deal. So it still is going to be a viable option, but is going to lose the basic grounds where you were able to just smash a tier 10 heavy tank in the face for about 800 damage, if even if you didn't penetrate the tank and it had like just not the strongest armor, but enough armor to withstand the high explosive shell. And it's very important to see something like this. I'm looking forward to the change because I cannot play against Type 5 heavies anymore. It's one of the reasons why I've stopped playing tier 10s, because the Type 5 heavy is just the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen in my life. And I'm hoping that Wargaming are learning from this experience and decide to never release a high explosive based tank with these characteristics again, where it has armor, where it has a big fucking gun that can just hit you in the face, where it actually is faster than a mouse and can get around the map okay with its mobility. And I just think that is fucking terrible. This was a horrible mistake, releasing this tank, and I'm basically ranting right now, but I think it's very important that we talk about it. Now, the third stage is going to be the FV4005. This vehicle is going to get nerfed quite substantially. 100 horsepower that it's going to lose. It's going to lose 3 kilometers per hour top speed. It's going to lose the reverse speed as well. The gun handling statistics will be worse. And basically they're going to keep the penetration of the HES shells and the damage output of the HES shells, but they're going to reduce a lot of other facts and other characteristics. Now, this change, I've played the FV215B1A3. Now, I know that these HES shells are really, really powerful. If you get the side of a tank, even at tier 10, you're going to be able to penetrate them for 1,750 damage. That can go up to all the way of 2,000 damage if you're lucky. Now, the problem here is that I think that right now the FV4005 actually is in a balanced state because it has 0 armor. This is a vehicle that can get high explosive killed by several other tanks. Its armor is 14 millimeters on the turret. Anyone with high explosive is going to be able to penetrate this vehicle. Now, I don't see the reason why they're reducing the other statistics, because it's not as big of a problem as the Type 5 Heavy. Now, this opts a question for me: if they're going to be changing the statistics on the premium, the FV215B 1A3, or if they're actually just changing the statistics on the FV4005. But at the same time, I am not very happy with this change on the FV4005. I think that it was balanced at the moment, but always, as always, I'd love to hear your guys' opinion on the fact, and I'll see you guys on the next one.